This is the Petiolaris sundew terrarium that I have. And there's only 3 types in here, but I just kind of got these sort of cheap from another grower. They are supposed to be a little bit more difficult to grow because of some of the care requirements that I'm going to mention coming up. So I only bought 3 different types to sort of see how well I could grow these in my conditions. Okay, so here's a view of the sundews. We have Drosera petiolaris, Drosera ordensis, Drosera falconeri, and then 3 other divisions of the falconeri. We actually have a lot of divisions in here as well, which is interesting because they told me that these sundews don't divide. But so far, 2 out of the 3 that I have do actually divide. And I repotted this and kind of ripped it apart and repotted those divisions, so it's kind of set back. But the other issue we were having, as you can see, the rosette has shrunk. The leaves on this one are not forming properly. Here we just have like a bunch of dead leaves. And so what's basically happening is that these are going into dormancy. Petiolaris sundews, they come from Australia, where they have a very hot and wet summer, and then sort of a dry winter, and if it falls under 75 degrees Fahrenheit, they're going to start going dormant. At least from what I can tell. In The Savage Garden, which is a popular book about growing carnivorous plants, it stated that 65 degrees until 90 degrees is a good growing temperature, but I find that a little bit hard to believe because when I try to grow these below 80 degrees, it doesn't work out very well. I had this reptile heating pad on the old terrarium on the bottom, and it was a small 1-gallon terrarium, so it was heating up, but only till about 80. And as you can see, that was kind of not enough for these to grow. So what I eventually did was I kind of shut the heating pad off at night and gave them kind of a pseudo-dormancy. But now we're going to do sort of an overview of the setup I have to grow these. Okay, so here's the final placement of the terrarium. We have the 4 fluorescent lights up here. We have a LED grow light, which I have to reposition now that we upgraded this from a 1-gallon to a 5-gallon terrarium. And then basically I removed that plastic wrap up here for the video, but that's sealed normally, and then I tape it shut just to make sure that plastic wrap is holding all the heat and humidity in. We get a little bit of heat building from the lights. As you can see, it's very close to those lights. We have a water basin down here, and I cranked that heater all the way up until 93 degrees. So that gets very hot. Then we have an additional heating pad on the side here, just like a reptile heat mat. I included it because I already had that from the old terrarium, so why not? Maybe heats up the air around here a little bit better. And of course, this is going to shut off once it reaches 93 degrees. So 93 degrees is kind of our base temperature for this terrarium. We're going to see how they grow. Of course, in this plant room, it's very small, and it's on the 2nd story of the house, where we have the old radiators that are working and also the central heating, and this room gets both of those. So once I shut the door in here, and if the fan, I have a big fan here, because also all the grow lights generate heat. So if I were to shut this off, this room gets to be 85 degrees Fahrenheit very easily. And so once we have this terrarium building heat, it's sealed, it's very easy for that temperature to skyrocket to about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. But as you can see, when the temperatures were in the 80s, they were not growing very well, so now we're just gonna try and cook them alive, and hopefully they will grow much better. Just overnight, it had a little bit more dew on it, but that's probably just the condensation. But I mean, they're not looking terrible. There is some growth, so Now we're just going to seal this back up, see how they grow, maybe come back in another few months with another update.